Hello, my name is Vian King, and I want to thank you for joining me today. Do you know, I've had people ask me, Vian, how do you do it? How do you stay strong? How do you have the confidence that you have? Do you know, after I was paralyzed, I spent 9 months in a rehabilitation hospital. But when I wanted a nap, so when I was up for the day and I was going about my day and I wanted a nap, I wasn't able to just jump back up in bed on my own. And I just hated having to ask for help just to have a nap. So guess what? I learned how to sleep in very uncomfortable positions. The nurses would literally come to my room and find me like sprawled over my bed, sound asleep. And because of the struggles I've had, I want to talk to you today about my new normal. We hear it a lot now, right? My new normal. Maybe someone has said it to you in your pain, trying to say something they think will help, but the fact is, it's not. Just like this situation is not one that we want to accept as a new normal. Heaven forbid our new normal would be trapped inside in isolation. My first experience with adapting to my new normal was when I lost my independence from this virus that I have, transverse myelitis. I was forced into a new normal I was not expecting, and I assure you, I was not happy with. Do you know, long before I had learned to adapt to a new normal physically, God was actually trying to teach me a new normal, a new mindset spiritually. And I didn't understand it. I remember sitting on the steps of Bible college, watching my parents drive away, and I was sitting there just sobbing. The only life I knew was small town Newfoundland, and here I was in this big city, far away from the comforts of home, and it was terrifying. My friend's dad, who was also a pastor, he saw me crying, and he came over, sat beside me. He said, Vian, your life and your ministry is like an elastic band. He said, God will stretch you, and he'll stretch you, and he'll stretch you, and he'll stretch you again. And at times, you feel like you're gonna break. But I promise you, you won't. It's just a necessary part of growth in order for God to take you farther. The new normal God was introducing to me, and this is the new normal I want you to receive today. God was introducing to me, Vian, I want you to be very comfortable with being uncomfortable. Our new normal is not, nor should it ever be, fear. Our new normal is not being trampled under the foot of intimidation and this isolation that threatens us. But these times do present with it an opportunity for us to learn and grow to adapt to a new normal. And I think that that's what he wants to say to you today. He wants to give you his strength. I have a friend who's an Olympian. She said her biggest challenge now in preparing for the Olympics was finding ways to get more weight. You see, we all know that in order to grow stronger physically means you add more pressure, more resistance, or you add more weight. You definitely have to train your body and your mind to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. But when it's internal, right, when it relates to our spiritual or our mental health and growth, we fight against it, don't we? We fight against it because we don't understand it, and it's hard. So how does this relate to now? You mean God is doing this to us? No. Just like God didn't make me sick, but I will add that he allowed it. But do you know what? He will use the pressure of your life and your unwelcome circumstance to help you grow, just like he did in mine. If you let him. If you let him. There's a verse in Jeremiah 29 that we quote all the time, right? It says that, I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. They're plans to, for good, not for disaster. Plans to give you hope and a future. We rhyme that off, don't we? Because we like the good part. If he said, I don't want to harm you, and if he wants to prosper us, why is this happening? Why? I want to take you back a few verses in that same chapter. You see, the Israelites, they were sent into exile, just to sum up. They were sent into exile and they were prisoners in captivity. And you know what God said to them in their captivity? He said to all the captives in Babylon, build your homes, plan to stay there. Plant gardens, and eat the produce it produces, marry, have children. He said, but don't dwindle away. He said, I want you to work for the peace and prosperity of your city. Don't just sit and watch Netflix all day. Maybe that's not in scriptures, but I'm just adding that. Don't just sit there and watch Netflix all day. He wants you to work for the peace of your city, work for the peace of your family and the world. If I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure that means that God was trying to say, be very comfortable with being uncomfortable. When he tells them to pray to the Lord for it, that by praying for the welfare of others, it will determine our welfare. He said, in this time, pray for it, and it will come. And you know what? And then he said, I will do all those good things that I promised. The virus that I have affected my ability to use the bathroom on my own. And I apologize if this is too much information for some, but I just want to share this with you. It affected me so badly that my routine would be like 3 to 5 hours on the regular. Sometimes a little less, but sometimes a lot more too. It got so bad that my husband, every time I would come out from the confined space of the bathroom, he would say, Dr. Jekyll or Mr. Hyde. But you know what? I started building my home and planting gardens, but not before I cried out to God when I realized that he wasn't taking it. I joke today and say that my first book, Going Farther, was written in the bathroom. That ain't no far stretch. That's when I got my laptop. My husband even debated whether or not I was going to have a TV mounted on the wall and that it'd be productive. But I found a new normal. I learned to be very comfortable with being uncomfortable. I was in there and it wasn't going to change anything, but I could have allowed it to consume me even more. I let it consume me for way too long, but when I finally did come to terms with where I was, I turned it into something that is amazing today. God allowed me. He changed my perspective in that moment. He gave me a new normal. But as a side note, before I go on, I want to let you know that God allowed me to come out of that prison. I got healed of that. So when you see this free woman, I am a free woman. So I just wanted to tell you that because no matter what prison we're in, we can still be free. And when God calls you out of that captivity, don't stay in the mindset that I'm still a prisoner. Physically, yes, I'm still in a wheelchair, so in all manner of speaking, some kind of prison, yes. But I have never been more free. Of all the prisons that I've been in, I've learned a new normal, to be free. No matter what tries to control me. And just like this virus, God wants you to not be a prisoner to it, to be free of it, and to be able to say that with God all things are possible, and I draw my strength from him. Now, when you read, for I know the plans I have for you. I want to do good for you. I want to prosper you. I don't want disaster for you. I have plans to give you hope and a future. He wants you to look for him wholeheartedly, with all of your heart. Seek and ask God in this time for the prosperity of your family, for the prosperity of your city, for our nation, for this world. Cry out to Him wholeheartedly today, and you will prosper. God is not going to leave us in captivity, but He's asking you to have a new normal mindset that says, I will not let this fear control me. I'm going to be very comfortable with being uncomfortable because I'm stronger than this. What have you done in the pressure of this season right now? In this prison, so to speak, in this very uncomfortable time? Have you simply just gone through every Netflix and YouTube video you can think of? Are you consumed with the news feeds and the Facebook post, everything that's just causing you more anxiety and fear and tension that's just building up? Or have you allowed yourself to reflect internally to see God, to see how you can become better by being under this extreme pressure? How can I be better in this situation so that when I come through this, how can we be better as a nation, as the world? How can we be better? We all like those movies, right? Where the person who's being kept hostage, they're trying to break them and they're torturing them to get information, and the person's not cracking. They're not cracking. And when the person does crack, you're like, oh, they weren't very faithful or they weren't very loyal to the cause. But when someone actually has the guts to do this, they look up and they smile at the face of their abuser and say, you ain't getting nothing from me. That's what I feel like sometimes. And I know that makes me sound like a crazy person. In the face of adversity, how much more amazing is it to have the mindset that I can laugh at that, because that ain't taken anything more from me than what it's already stolen. Listen, I've been in some pretty heavy prisons, but you ain't keeping this girl prisoner. I am free and you cannot take that. I have joy, you cannot take that. I have peace, and you cannot take that. No matter what prison you are in, it cannot take what's on the inside of you. Okay, maybe you're not there yet. Maybe you can't laugh in the face of what's staring at you. But my challenge to you today is to allow Him to come in to this mess that we're in and help you be better on the inside as a result of all the stuff that's going on around us. He wants you to trust Him even more right now in this pain and not so certain times. He wants you to trust Him. He wants to give you a new normal. Now, to Him who's able to do way more than I could ever ask or think, that you could ever ask or think, He's able to do way more than we could ever dream of. Take care and God bless.